Last year, I remember reading an article that in one area here in the south of Spain, a whopping 25% of the property buyers were non-Spanish nationals. In and of itself, that is not super surprising, given how popular the area is for internationals, but it's still kind of crazy when you think about it. Being an international homeowner myself, I definitely contribute to this statistic, and since I take an interest in the real estate market here in Spain, I want to talk about the pros and cons of buying a property here. Now, whether you're just window shopping for a cute home in Spain, or whether you're actively looking to buy something, this video is for everyone, regardless of their level of commitment to the process, and for everyone with or without knowledge of the Spanish real estate market. Also, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I make content for all of you about wonderful Spain here in the south of Europe. I'm originally from Denmark, but I live and work from my home in Torremolinos on the Costa del Sol. So what are the pros and cons of buying and owning property on the Costa del Sol? Let's start with the pros. First of all, this is a popular area for good reason. The Costa del Sol offers a little bit of everything. On the one hand, you have the endless coastline with beaches, and not very far inland, we have mountainous areas and beautiful valleys. We have the city of Malaga with its magnificent historic atmosphere, and the area also counts a handful of idyllic villages and coastal towns with busy nightlife and a bunch of activities to do. We have the Malaga Costa del Sol airport, which is increasingly well connected also beyond Europe. And of course we have the climate, which offers mild winters and hot, but typically not insufferable summers. Due to this popularity, Malaga province has gained more residents in 2021 than any other province in Spain. Pretty crazy, huh? If this trend is any indication, it is probably not the worst place to buy a property. Which leads us to the next pro, which has to do with high season rental prices. You see, even if you don't primarily buy the property as an investment, but also if you do, you can benefit from high income potential during the high season months if you rent out your property as a holiday rental / Airbnb. Now, you do need a permit for this, but as of right now, that is very easy to get. So if you do buy a property, make sure to get the permit, even if you aren't sure if you're going to be using it. That would be my advice. The high season runs over the summer plus other periods such as Easter week. Whether or not the property is a good investment obviously depends on a bunch of factors, but if you do the marketing right and of course obtain the necessary permit, you should be able to make decent cash flow if that's something you're after. But it is not only beneficial to own property for the purpose of investing, it is also very much an advantage to buy property here if you plan to live here some or all of the time. You see, the rental market is not easy, and the ball is definitely in the court of the landlords. First of all, in some areas, it is quite difficult to even find permanent rentals, as many are seasonal. It is also often quite expensive, counting agency fees, and many landlords do not have a great reputation when it comes to solving issues in the property, if any. The thing is that there is an excess demand for rentals in the province, and the supply just cannot keep up with the popularity of living here. The bottom line is that if you own your own property, you have a place to stay for the long term. Alright, also very important is the ease with which foreigners can acquire properties in Spain. In theory, anyone can buy a property in Spain, and there really isn't a whole lot of red tape. The only thing you need is a NIA number, and that is a sort of ID number, mainly for tax purposes, and well, that's basically it. Now, the last pro is the possibility to get a Spanish mortgage, because mortgages are at a large available to foreign nationals as well as locals. Although you may have a few more requirements when it comes to proving your source of income, for example, several banks have entire teams devoted to dealing with foreigners, and there are also several agencies that help you navigate the jungle of getting a mortgage here. It is worth noting that Spanish banks typically don't give mortgages to rural properties, but the local government does have a sort of replacement loan that could be relevant if you're looking at country homes, for example. In general, it is possible to loan up to 70% of the property's value, and perhaps 80% if you're really lucky. Okay, so that's all great, but let's move on to the cons to bring some perspective to the real estate market here. So first of all, it's hard to talk about Europe without mentioning high taxes, and Spain is absolutely no exception in this regard. If you buy a property in Spain, you need to know that the capital gains tax, when you once sell the property, ranges from 19 to 24% of the net profit, depending on your residency situation. You also have to pay a yearly property tax known as IBI, and the amount depends on your property's value and a bunch of other factors that we're not going to get into now. Just know that it is there and that you always have to pay it regardless of your residency status. I would always advise to ask the real estate agent showing the property about the yearly IBI contributions, as they can vary quite a lot. Lastly, you also need to know that Spain has a transfer of ownership tax. Basically, you have to pay a tax when purchasing the property, and this depends on the region, the value of the property, and finally, there are some discounts available in certain cases. All in all, these taxes add up, and they're important to consider when doing the math, both in terms of your budget, but also the profitability of investing. If you have researched the property market in Spain, you may have heard about the threat that is squatters, meaning people that illegally occupy your home. Spain, like many other countries, have some laws that make it kind of complicated to kick people out of your property, even if they have absolutely no legal claim to stay there. Whether or not that's something you need to worry about highly depends on what kind of property you're looking to buy. So in general, the more secluded the house, the higher the risk that someone might break in. Although I think this issue is sometimes exaggerated a bit in the media, it is a valid concern because getting rid of squatters, or ocupas as they're called in Spanish, can be both expensive, time-consuming, and quite frankly just a very frustrating experience. If you dream of buying a secluded traditional Spanish house in the mountains or any other type of property that is located in a rural area, you also need to consider that you are most likely going to meet restrictions if you wish to reform or add to the building. In most cases, it is not allowed to enlarge the area on which the already existing building is placed, thus limiting the possibility to build your dream house. It is always a good idea to inquire about this when going for a viewing, but as a rule of thumb, you are not allowed to add to these types of buildings. This may not be an issue if the house already has the size that you prefer, but unfortunately a lot of rural houses are quite small from the get-go. A con when it comes to apartment buildings, on the other hand, has to do with the debt that can be accumulated in the apartment community or complex. When owning an apartment, you typically have to pay communal fees that are shared by all owners within the apartment complex. The problem is that it is quite common that some owners don't pay these fees, resulting in debt in the building. Now, it is quite common for all buildings to have varying degrees of debt, but you want to make sure that the debt is not excessive and that proper action is being taken to resolve any issues. This could also be debt related to ongoing improvement projects. Alright, the last con may be a bit controversial sounding, but I would be very cautious when looking at properties or new developments that are described as luxurious or high quality. Why? Well, you might get pretty disappointed depending on what level of quality you are expecting. These days we see a lot of new projects rising up, such as quote-unquote luxury sea view apartments and large complexes with fancy houses. I'm not saying that none of these projects live up to their promises, but sometimes the property may look very nice and shiny at first and in the marketing materials, but sometimes that's it. I would actively inquire about the materials used, the plan, the construction team, the types of windows used, as in are they double-sided and soundproof or not, the thickness and the quality of the walls, again for soundproofing purposes, and similar aspects. It costs nothing to describe a building as luxury, which is exactly why you should question it. Now, don't worry if all of this sounds a bit overwhelming. If you need help with the process of buying a property in Spain, don't hesitate to reach out to me. These were the main pros and cons of buying real estate in the south of Spain, and I really hope you found it useful. You are very welcome to ask questions in the comments or add some pros and cons according to your opinion. Please consider hitting the subscribe and like button to help grow the channel and our community. It really helps me to produce more content for all you guys out there. You are also very welcome to follow me over on Instagram at nina.jensen. Alright, thank you so much for watching and see you in the next one.